Hello, my name is Sheila and I would like to welcome you to my podcast, All About You. I love to listen to podcasts and especially conversations with famous people. However, I think everyone has a story to tell. Maybe a place you have visited, a hobby you enjoy, or anything that you feel would be of interest. I want to have conversations with lots of different people and hear their stories. So if you have a story to tell, please contact me on my email, allaboutyoupodcast@yahoo.com. Welcome to another All About You podcast. And my guest today is Abby Rentall from the UK, who is a bride who originally had her wedding all organised in 2019 for 2021. And this is her story of reorganising her wedding. And Abby, first of all, can I offer my congratulations on your wedding?
Thank you very much. We're very excited when it finally comes around, we're very excited.
And I think this is going to be a very, very interesting conversation. So, Abby, thank you for coming to be a guest on the podcast and for telling your story.
Thank you very much.
So, Abby, let's start at the very beginning. So, what is your husband-to-be's name?
So his name is Patrick. He is Polish, and we've been together for 6 years. I think it's 6 years. Yeah, 6 years.
And where did you meet?
We met at work. If anybody else is from London, we met in a pub. There's a place called Hampstead in northwest London. And there's a pub, actually turns out, we found out later, quite a famous pub called the Old Bull and Bush, which there's an old Cockney song, "You down at the Old Bull and Bush." Well, that is exactly what happened. Patrick was a chef and I was the barmaid. Classic sort of work tale. And yeah, that's where we met, got on with each other, and the rest, as they say, is history.
So when did you realise your relationship was serious and engagement, wedding was a possibility?
It's funny because for a while I'd been saying, no, I've always wanted to get married, but didn't feel like I was ready to get married. And so for ages I was saying, don't you dare. If you get down on one knee, I'm going to say no. I'm honestly not ready yet. One day we're going to get married, but don't you dare do it. And then we spoke about it after the engagement. I said, what made you think? He said, well, you started going from don't you dare get down on one knee to when we get married, we could do this. And when it's our wedding, we could have this. And he said, I think we just the conversation started changing, but we'd been together 4 years when we got engaged. Yeah.
You knew Patrick was the one, but you weren't in the right place to actually commit and go through the engagement and start planning the wedding. But then things obviously started to change, that you went from don't you dare to when we... Very interesting. So did you have a party for your engagement? Did you celebrate with the family and friends?
We did. So we actually got engaged in Tenerife. We went on holiday for my mum's 50th birthday. I'd spent the previous 6 weeks working away in China. And while I was away, Patrick had been looking at rings and things and had decided that on that holiday, he was going to propose and he decided on the final day. So we'd kind of done the birthday celebrations, and so he didn't feel like he was taking over the holiday that was for my mum's birthday, but he wanted my family to be there. So it was me and Patrick, my mum and dad, my auntie, her husband, and then some of my mum's best friends. There's 10 of us, I think, and we went for lunch, and that's where he proposed, in a restaurant along the sea, sort of sticking out, looking over the seafront in a small village. And that was nice because then we spent the afternoon sort of celebrating. So we had champagne, and it's a bit of a joke really. We went to an Irish bar. His name's Patrick, but he's Polish Patrick, not Irish. They got really excited. They started playing the Pogues Christmas song, but the DJ was Spanish, so announced the engagement of Abby and Patrice. And now Patrice has become a bit of a nickname for him, but when we came home, that was in the September. Then when we came home, so many people naturally were saying, congratulations, let's meet up for a drink. We'd love to see the ring. We'd love to hear about it. And quite a few friends had said they wanted to catch up and meet up. So we said, well, we can't really afford to keep going out every weekend. So we arranged in November to have some drinks with a big group of friends. We all got together and had a little bit of a party to celebrate, which was really nice.
So Patrick went out and bought the ring on his own?
Yeah.
So he's a keeper. He's very brave.
It fits perfectly. So he apparently was trying on some of my costume jewellery, which I think is a bit of a risk. But he said, as he sort of asked me and then said, we can take it back. We can get a smaller one. They can change it. And I said, it actually fits. It fits perfectly all the time. Even, on those hot days when your fingers also swell a little bit, it also doesn't get too tight. So he did it. I don't think I would have been able to pick it perfectly myself. So,
God, I mean, the mere fact he has gone out, spent the time, and obviously going through your jewellery, thinking about the sizes, that is so brave. So brave. So describe your ring to us, Abby.
So it is white gold. It's got I don't know the fancy names for it, but it's a round diamond but in a sort of square clasp. And then it's got some diamonds about halfway round each side. Then when we went shopping for wedding rings, I said, I just want something simple because this ring is so gorgeous. Now my wedding band is very thin, but I tried on the sparkly one and I wanted the extra sparkles. It's a very, very fine band, but it is sparkly, but it matches. This one's from the same jewellers. So
got the wedding bands now. So let's talk about the planning of your wedding. Originally, when the world was normal, nobody knew about wearing masks, the pandemic was just a word in the vocabulary. Okay, so when did all this start for you?
So I had actually, when the conversation went from don't you dare to when we do get married, I had also gone from, just so you know, the day that you proposed to me, the next day, I'm starting planning my wedding because I love weddings. I've always loved weddings. I used to work in actually the hotel we're getting married in, but sometimes work the weddings and I loved it. I love talking to people about weddings. Attending weddings, I've always sort of been just really enjoyed world around weddings. And so I was desperate to get started, but also didn't want to tempt fate. So never had a Pinterest board of my future wedding or anything until we got engaged. So then we got engaged on the 4th of September. And on the 5th of September, we were sat in the airport on the way home. And I was saying, okay, when are we getting married? Let's think about dates. We've only just got engaged. Calm down. But I wanted to get going because I think you need the bare bones in place. So the date, the venue, and somebody to marry you. Whether you're getting married in a church or a registry office, whatever, but you need those 3 things so you can definitely do it. You've got someone to do it for you, the place and the time. And because we're getting married in my hometown in North Wales, but we live in London, there was also limited, which later became much more limited, but already limited opportunity to physically be in the venue or able to speak to local suppliers back at home. So we got started quite quickly. We chose our date, which we were looking at May, and then Patrick's mum said no to May because there's a Polish superstition. But if you have to get married in a month that has an R in its Polish name because that's good luck. But May is apparently really bad luck. So she said, no, please don't get married in May. So we moved it to June. So we got everything set for June. And then I went home in the October. So a month, about 6 weeks after we got engaged, I met with the venue, paid the deposit on that. I met in the registry office and sort of secured somebody. I didn't know until a friend told me, but if you're planning a wedding quite far in advance, you still have to reserve, even if you've not given your notice of marriage, you can reserve a registrar because we're not getting married in a church. So I reserved a person. So there was somebody on Saturday, the 5th of June at 1 p.m. because I wanted prime time, June wedding. We had it all set. So we had, all the sort of the 3 pillars done in October, organised. And then we've got a lot of people travelling. All of Patrick's family, half of my family. We've got friends. I think we sent out to something like 10 different countries we sent invitations to. So we were keen to get the save the dates out as soon as we had the date. So we then started delivering our save the dates November, December. So with Christmas cards and Christmas presents, that kind of thing, just so that those that were travelling had plenty of time to sort things out.
So that's an awful lot of moving parts with 10 different countries at the best of times. Plus the fact you are not living close to where you're getting married, so you can't just go down there every weekend and just do the paperwork, etc. So straight away you've got lots of moving parts there that have all got to come together.
We had those things booked in October, and then I went home for Christmas, but obviously nobody really wants to be having meetings and things over Christmas. And then April 2020 was the next visit I had booked at home. And I'd booked in, I was going for about a week. I'd booked in several florist appointments to find a florist. I'd already booked my photographer because it's somebody I know, but I'd just sort of gone down the list and gone, right, I need to try and pack in with every visit, pack in as many things as possible. And then we went into lockdown. I contacted the florists and they were willing to do sort of either Zoom or phone calls, and we organised things. So I booked a florist, I booked someone to do some decor, and we were still waiting to try the menu. That was the one thing that we didn't get around to do, because every time we planned to go home, we went into lockdown. We went into another lockdown, or the hotel it's still not open. It was open briefly in 2020, but following this lockdown, it's not open till the 17th of May. So actually, if we had got married in June, we probably wouldn't have been able to try our food. Patrick is a chef, so the food is a big part. We're also having a 2-day wedding, so we're planning 2 separate days in 2 separate venues with 2 separate sets of catering. And we found a Polish chef to come and cook for us on Sunday. Again, we'd not met her. We'd met her once, but not been able to meet with food suppliers or anything. And lockdown continued and continued.
So all of a sudden then now we've got 2 complete weddings. We've got the Polish wedding and then we've got the sort of the UK wedding. So organising a wedding at the best of times, there's so many different components, but you're doing 2 separate ones, and I'm sure there's different traditions and all different things. Wow, you certainly had a large to-do list, Abby.
Yeah, so that was why we were keen to get going quite early, aside from me being very organised anyway, and I like getting on with stuff. But because we had so many things to sort out, and while the 2 days are in one weekend and it's sort of one set of invitations, and it's still 2 separate days, there's still quite a lot of suppliers, there's still a lot of conversations to be had. So we were keen to get going, make a start. It all got planned with the exception of the smaller last minute details, and then it got postponed. We actually postponed before the UK announcements, but because of travel restrictions is why we ended up postponing, and we weren't really willing to have the sort of micro wedding. Lots of people have had the most beautiful intimate weddings, and we looked at them and you think, oh, it is actually gorgeous and we could maybe splash out a bit more on some things. But actually for us, if it was 15 people, that would also probably mean that travel wouldn't be allowed, which would mean none of Patrick's family would be able to be here for his wedding day. As I said, my family's very small, so my auntie, her husband and her daughter are now half of my family. They live in Spain, so they wouldn't be able to be there, and so difficult to reduce your guest list anyway. But then when some of the sort of major people of the bridal party and the family can't be there, it was kind of already, well, that's a no for us. We're going to have to postpone, and it hopefully, touch wood, don't want to speak too soon, by next year, April 22, when the new wedding is, we should be able to have, we've planned, a full weekend, a big party, and we want to have the big party. So hopefully by then we should be able to have all of those things.
I think for most brides, one of the most stressful parts of a wedding is the guest list.
Mm-hmm.
It's a major operation. So when you're in the position, you've got to cut that guest list down to 15 people if you want to go ahead with your wedding during the pandemic. That must have been absolutely horrendous. And I just can't imagine what some of the wedding couples would have had to have gone through trying to whittle it down, because you don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. It's just an impossible task, I would imagine. So, yeah, I wouldn't envy anyone going through that.
We did actually look at it, because for ages, I mean, weren't we all in the same position when we thought lockdown was 3 or 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks? And if you told us in March 2020 that in April 2021, I still would only be able to sit outside in the pub, we wouldn't be able to go round to our friend's house for a cup of tea because we're not allowed to go into their homes, we wouldn't believe you, would we? And we spent ages going, well, thank God we booked for 2021, because we could have booked for 2020 and then we decided not to give us more time to save money. And we were really pleased at first, and then it just continued and continued, and we started looking at, right, maybe we need to have plan B. So we went through the guest list and we came up with some ideas of, okay, how do we make it fair? Right, maybe we are having children invited to our wedding, so maybe first we go with friends' children, because they might not want to bring them anyway. They might leave them with grandparents or get a babysitter. And then maybe we go with partners that we don't know or don't really know very well. Okay, but then how do you distinguish who's a more important friend, or how do you do that? And it was, I think we cut down, we're about 100, our guest list. We've got quite a big guest list, but we envisage it's going to end up being about 120. So we cut down, we said that we could probably do it with 75. So we cut down to 75. We then did a next list of 50, and then we tried to cut down to 30. And thankfully, it was only sort of an experiment, because I wouldn't say we argued over it, but it wasn't a nice evening trying to sit there and say, well, this person has to come, but if that person comes, then that person's got to come. And it was really difficult. So as you said, I don't envy anyone who had to make those decisions, but we decided that 75, 80 we could do it, but we'd rather not. And then we didn't want masks, and we didn't want social distancing. Also, because one thing that started to upset me towards the latter end of 2020, early 2021, was, I don't want to say that people weren't excited, because people were and are excited to come and celebrate our wedding. Of course they are. They're our closest friends and family. But the negative emotions that then also started coming, so whether people had been on furlough and were worried about paying for accommodation for a weekend, whether people were worried about paying for the hen weekend or the stag weekend, whether people were nervous about, oh gosh, I still want to socially distance and I don't know if the other people do, or will the venue be suitable for social distancing? Well, different people's anxieties based on their circumstances. I didn't want any of my guests to have a negative feeling towards our wedding, or a worry that, oh, we've booked this accommodation but it might get cancelled, or it might get this, or we might get cut from the guest list. I wanted everything about it. One of the reasons I was so organised so early on is that I wanted the close run up, so the last couple of months, just to be full of excitement. I wanted to have everything organised by my hen party, so that after the hen party it was just trying on dresses and maybe drinks with friends and just lovely things, not stressful things. And I wanted my guests to feel the same, not to be asking questions about which hotel is the cheapest, or can we get a deal, or how are we going to travel because we can't all afford to get the train. I wanted everybody just to be excited for the weekend. And so I'd started sort of feeling negative about it myself, and then the travel restrictions were coming in and seemed to be quite strict for particularly European countries, which are important for us. And so we bit the bullet. We sent our invitations out at the beginning of January. The beginning of February, we sent out a video message to say we have decided to postpone, and we'll send you more details in the future.
I mean, that must have been heartbreaking after all of that to record that video message. I mean, I think a video message is absolutely a brilliant idea. So well done you, Abby. But to actually record it, you must have done that with a very heavy heart.
Yeah, and it felt a bit strange actually because I was so positive for so long. I kept being, no, it's going to happen. By June, it'll be fine. The vaccine program's rolling out. It's going to be fine. We'll be fine. We're going to plan ahead as normal because it's looking good. And then I just felt, I think generally, certainly in the UK, there was almost like through January, I mean, it's always a bit miserable and grey, but just felt like there was a national kind of, just everybody felt a bit rubbish. The news all just seemed like extending lockdown, extending this. We thought, right, we're going to send out positive, give somebody something to look forward to. Here's something for the summer. We should be fine. And I was so positive about it. And then it felt like, okay, we've made the decision to postpone. We've just sent the invitations out. Thankfully, touch wood, when we postponed, we were able to essentially pick up our wedding from June and drop it into April. All of our suppliers were available. They were all amazing, really helpful. The only thing that changed, aside from the date, obviously, our ceremony is now at midday instead of 1 o'clock. But that's really a minor change. So we were quite lucky in that respect. We didn't have to find new venues, new suppliers, anything. We were just able to pick it up and move it. But I felt bad that I'd sent out something and then I was changing it. But I designed the invitations and got them printed during the first lockdown. So I spent that time, it was quite nice for us actually. We spent time actually together making decisions, sitting down, talking through our wedding, sort of doing more things together because we're normally a little bit like passing ships. We work different hours and things. So I designed the invitations, got them printed, they arrived, and they were just waiting to go out. And if we hadn't sent them out, we would have had to change them. So it would have been a waste. And I'm really trying where possible to have as little waste from our wedding as possible. So they've got them, they've got all the details, they've got the stuff they need to know. And then in our video message, which we recorded, I think about 5 days after we made the decision. So the run up to making the decision was stressful because we weren't exactly sure what to do. I was writing list pros and cons if we do this, if the two of us kind of discussing which would be our best option. And then obviously there were lots of tears. And then I got the sort of back into the getting stuff done, got on the phone to everybody, moved everything, and then went, right, we need to tell everybody now, everything's in place. So actually our video, we did a video and then we did an outtakes video because we couldn't stop laughing, which people said they enjoyed watching because I also didn't really want people to feel sorry for us. So our wedding day is actually, should have been a month today. Today's the 5th of May. It should have been the 5th of June. And we are having a barbecue and we're making it into a party because we don't want to be sad about it. We want to make it. We had spent a long time planning for that day. So we're going to make something out of that day. And I think that's kind of been the theme through a lot of things is, okay, we've been sad about it. And now we're going to make the best out of a bad situation and have another excuse to have a party and just spend it as an opportunity to get together with our friends, which is something we had wanted to do in the lead up to our wedding, but the pandemic took those opportunities away. I had a trip planned with my bridesmaids to my hometown in May last year. That got cancelled. Patrick had a trip to Amsterdam with his groomsmen planned. That is now happening in September, but that didn't happen before June. We then planned just the beginning of December when you were allowed to have people over, or at the time you were allowed to have people over. So we planned for the beginning of December, my bridesmaids and Patrick's groomsmen to come round to our house. We'd have drinks and dinner together, and that got cancelled because the restrictions changed. And so we're getting back the opportunity to have all those lovely celebrations, I think. So that's a positive to take, I think, from postponing our wedding.
I think listening to your story, I mean, you come across, as you say yourself, you're a very, very organised person. And I think a lot of brides, if they are listening to what you've done and how you've done it, would probably hire you as their wedding planner. And I think one of the interesting things, you kept positive, I've organised this, I've done that. and you kept going, yeah, we can do this, we can do this. And then you got to the point where you had to say, okay, I've done as much as I can. I cannot go any further because this is the law. And you accepted that with good grace. I think the video message and the outtakes is a brilliant idea. I mean, I would love to see that. I think that's fantastic. But I think for you and the way you've managed to organise everything, literally, as you said, you picked it up and then you managed to put it into the new dates, apart from moving the actual service to 1 hour, it is just everything is obviously aligned for you, not quite as you imagined, but plan maybe C, D, E, F worked out really well.
And I think people say, don't they, everything happens for a reason. And it turns out that we had planned for June. I'm a drama teacher. If I wasn't a drama teacher, it's funny you mentioned a wedding planner. I spent lockdown 1, I got myself a wedding planning diploma. So self as my first client. But I've set up a wedding Instagram. It's quite a big bridal community on Instagram where brides sort of chat and share things. And I love helping other brides. That would be a thing that I would definitely be intrigued to do in the future. But everything happens for a reason. That 5th and 6th of June was a Saturday, Sunday. It was the Saturday, Sunday following the school half term. So I would have had the half term off, as would quite a few of my teacher friends. However, my teachers, my friends that are teachers, and my friends with children, their children need to be back to school on the Monday. So they would have had to have sacrificed celebrating with us on the Sunday or left early. Now, it turns out the only available weekend that suited us at the venue was the 16th of April, which is Easter weekend. So now, when I sent the message to a couple of my friends, one said, I don't need to book any time off work. This is brilliant for me because it's Good Friday. They travel up on Good Friday. We get married Easter Saturday. We party Easter Sunday and they go home Easter Monday. So it's slotted in. It's worked out much more conveniently for us and our friends and our guests. I do try and see the best in everything all the time. I would describe myself as a positive person, but as you said, there comes a point where you go, I've done everything I can and I cannot do any more. A, because the law or there are restrictions in place. I don't have the decision as to when things will change, but also if I keep going, so we made our decision 2 weeks before the announcement of the UK roadmap, and it turns out we would have been shy of the supposed end of restrictions on the 21st of June. We would have been shy of that by 2 weeks, and I would have felt so annoyed if we'd had to have our wedding by restrictions, but 2 weeks later somebody could have complete freedom. But also I think you have to consider your own mental health as well, and think it started getting stressful and it started becoming negative, and I never wanted my wedding. I've been very lucky. Neither of us have, some people have, I don't know, family or friends that are sticking their 2 pence in everywhere and complaining about this decision and changing that decision. We don't have any family members that we think, oh God, we have to invite them, but we'd really rather not. We've been really lucky. We've been left. Our families have both gone, it's your wedding. We're here if you want any help, if you want any suggestions, but it's your wedding. Do what you want. We could get married, I don't know, in the middle of a forest climbing trees if we wanted to. That would be, if that's what you want, go for it. But I think I never wanted it to become a negative experience, and the dial was slowly turning at the point that we postponed, that it was potentially going to become difficult and more stressful. So we put a stop to it, gave ourselves more time, and now we've just had the time to get excited again. It's been really nice.
I just cannot believe the journey you have been on. If we look at sort of weddings in general, weddings are generally very stressful. There are so many moving parts. My understanding now is you have to book, as you say, the 3 pillars, the date, the venue and the registrar at least a year in advance, if not more. Once you've got those, and I love the way you refer it to the 3 pillars. You need to write some kind of book or guide for people. Now you've got your wedding diploma, this needs to go in the book, because I think the 3 pillars of your wedding and associating that with the pillars on a cake and thing, I think is absolute genius. But if you think about it, there are so many moving parts on a wedding. In theory, it's a celebration of two people coming together. However, all the moving parts, the emotions, adding the families, they want this, they want that. Are you doing this? You should have this. And at the end of the day, it can get extremely stressful. Cost as well. I mean, the cost of a wedding can go from basically the cost of the wedding license to infinity.
Yeah.
And I can certainly see how it can become stressful in the best of times. However, then when you put on the extra issues associated with the pandemic, I'm sure a lot of brides just burst into tears. And
I think there's, as you said, it's stressful at the best of times, and there's always a lot of pressure, whether it's from yourself because you've been thinking about your wedding for however many years, or from other people, or from seeing photos of other weddings, or your friend seemed to spend this much. And actually, I read somewhere, and I think it's really beautiful, is, did you marry your partner? Yes. Then your day was a success. That's the only thing that needs to happen on that day, is that you actually get married. Doesn't matter what you're wearing, where you are, who's there. If you actually got married, then that's proof of a successful day. But we put so much pressure on everything being perfect, being this, doing that. And I do think actually the pandemic has generally, weddings inside and outside of weddings, but made people sort of take a step back a little bit and realise what it is that's really important. So whether that's, no, you don't need to pay for a load of guests that you don't actually want to be there. Don't have them there. It's your money. It's your day. Or if you don't want to have a big fancy sit down meal and you want fish and chips, have fish and chips. People have kind of taken a step back in life and gone, okay, these are the important things. It doesn't matter if everything is not perfect. Nothing ever will be perfect. And I think we often get carried away by things like styled wedding shoots, which actually through the pandemic, the only thing we've seen, or picture perfect images that we see, when actually, no matter how gorgeous your table is, and someone's going to spill red wine on the table, there's going to be a child screaming in the corner, your gorgeous little bridesmaids aren't going to want to have their pictures taken when you want to have the pictures taken. Nothing. There will be things, no matter how much you plan it, that just will not go to plan. I think at the moment we've come to the point where we think we've planned everything as much, and I want to plan everything up to a point that I can leave it on the day and go, thank you, there's all my plans, somebody take it, because I want to do nothing today. But we're looking forward to having everybody, all our favourite people, in one place. So when we turn around or sit from our table at our wedding breakfast and look out at the room, it's just all of our favourite faces smiling back at us. And I think that feels even more important after the last year and a half or year that we've had.
I think it's so important when you have emphasised a wedding is the joining together of two people. It's that actual commitment, taking the vows. The rest of it is all the fluff. And I often think in a wedding, it's when things go wrong can often make the magical moments.
Yeah. How many gorgeous photos have you seen of brides holding an umbrella, their dress hiked up so it's not going, and that's not the picture they wanted, but that's the photo that's up in their living room because it was an amazing moment that they look back at and laugh. Or there's a photo of the crying bridesmaid because she didn't get the cake, the little girl, flower girl or something, she didn't get something. And they're the things that we cherish and that make it your wedding as opposed to every other wedding.
And I think as well, now we have social media, I think the ante on weddings has just gone stellar. I mean, I love watching people's wedding videos on YouTube as much as the next person. And one thing I discovered is for some girls, they will have 2 wedding dresses. Do you have 2 wedding dresses?
I do, but that's only because it's a 2-day wedding.
The ones I have seen is it's one wedding, but they have a full wedding dress with the veil and all the bits and pieces for the wedding, and then they change later after the wedding breakfast into another full wedding dress.
I didn't want that because I thought if I'm spending this much money on a dress, I want to make the most of it. But I'd actually planned for the Saturday, I wanted the full wedding dress, full shebang from the boutique and have that experience. And the other one, I was just going to buy a white dress from ASOS or Zara or somewhere, because they all have bridal sections now. £200, you can pick up a gorgeous dress. And then I went to a sample sale in a wedding boutique, and I found a dress that should have been £2,000 for £500, and that was in October 2019, funnily enough. And I loved it, but I didn't feel like it was right for the Saturday. And then I thought, well, I've got so long, I might just get it. And so now I have two very nice dresses, but one was in a sample sale. So if there are any other brides to be listening and thinking about where to get a dress from, or not wanting to spend lots of money on a dress, I would recommend seek out your local or nearby bridal shops sample sales, and they basically get rid of all the things that are on the hangers. They're all in pretty much immaculate condition because obviously they're all washed and cleaned and hung beautifully, but you get designer dresses, beautiful dresses for a fraction of the price. You often have to take them away with you and sort a seamstress, but I've got a friend, my mum's friend is a seamstress, and she's going to sort the dress for me. So I think that's an option if you want the sort of boutique experience, but you don't want the boutique price tag. Check out sample sales.
I think that is an amazing tip, because if we just talk about the wedding dress itself, you can spend an absolute fortune on a wedding dress.
Mm-hmm.
Or we say a lot of the high street shops now do have a wedding section, and then you can either jazz that up yourself or whatever you want to do. What are some of the trends? I mean, you've obviously been following the wedding scene for a couple of years now. What are some of the trends that you've seen coming out in respect of brides now? Has things changed because of the pandemic?
I think you mentioned the two dresses. People are now seeming to do, whether it's because you want to treat yourself because you've got more time because you're postponed, or people are doing, say, their legal wedding during the pandemic at the registry office with two people, but then a party reception later. So having a more low-key dress for the wedding, the actual ceremony, but then the full wedding dress for the parties. People are breaking that up. People are also, I think, some people away from dresses, away from white dresses. So people are more there's some coloured dresses out there, or sort of a bit quirky with even patterns on. People are in jumpsuits or suits, maybe also becoming a bit, I don't think more daring is the right word, but not necessarily, and I think this is across weddings altogether at the moment, not necessarily following the rule book, which I think is brilliant. Like, there are things that people think that we have to do when you get married. You have to wear a white dress, and the man has to wear a suit, and my bridesmaids are all in different dresses. They're all in one kind of colour scheme. They're pink, shades of pink, but there's sort of two in one, two in another. I've got 7 bridesmaids and a bridesman, because why not? I have a beautiful best friend who's a man. Why can't he be part of my bridal party? Why do I have to? Should a bridal party only be small? Well, I've got a lot of friends that I want to be involved. So no, I'm having them all. I'm having a man, my choice. So who cares what other people have done before you? And I think perhaps even more so because of the pandemic, people are being a bit more, I want this on our wedding day. I don't want what's gone before me. I want to do something a bit different. And I think that's really nice.
It's your day. You celebrate the wedding. How and with what components? Absolutely stamp your personality on it. Things that I've seen coming along out of social media is this couple's first dance. So often they will go to dance classes, and they'll hire a choreographer, and they'll have something done especially for them to their song and everything. Where did that come from?
I wonder if it started, I want to say America, because these kind of things do generally stem from America, don't they? But I want to say it comes from that, again, a wedding stereotype that the groom will always stand on the bride's dress and it'll be fumbly. And I think some people don't like the idea of having to stand and dance. So perhaps if they have something to do, it takes away the awkwardness because they know what they're doing. Or perhaps they want to learn to dance. For us, I mean, I trained in theatre, so the idea of rehearsing something for my wedding, it would make it feel like work, and that's not something I want to do. But we also like to dance. So at parties, we are the first on the dance floor. Patrick it's lovely. His family are all at parties when I've been in weddings. They are on the dance floor. They're dancing with different members of the family, spinning each other around. It's really nice. So they have the confidence to just dance and listen to the music. And I think perhaps some people don't want to, or they don't want to have that. Probably the film thing of the awkwardness of standing on the dress and having slippy shoes and this and that. So I think that's where it comes from. Or people wanting to make a spectacle and make more of an event for guests.
And I think another thing as well is when the bridal party are dancing down the aisle in the church. I mean, that seems to be a thing as well now. Where has that come from?
I don't know. I mean, there are things, I love it. If that's what you're like, if that's what you want to do, go for it. I think would liven up. I've also seen some of like a flower dude, a flower man, instead of a flower girl, coming throwing petals from a bum bag. And
oh, right, okay. Haven't seen that one.
And I saw one of a flower granny because they wanted their grandmothers to be involved. And so the two grandmothers walked down sprinkling flowers, which I thought was very sweet.
That is a lovely idea. I much prefer that than the bridal party sort of shimmying and sashaying down the aisle, to get people involved with a purpose as such, like that with the grandparents. I think fantastic.
I think it's nice I like the ceremony. Well, I'm not massive for huge wedding traditions. I am doing some, and I think the ceremony is something that I'd like to keep. We're making it fun. It's going to be a fun and light-hearted ceremony, but I still want the bridesmaids to go first, and then I'll be given away by my dad. We're sort of keeping those traditions. We now actually postponing means my little baby cousin will be old enough to walk, so we now have a flower girl. But I think there are some things that I want to keep. I'd like the day to start, quite formal and calm and nice, but then if my bridesmaids better be on the dance floor in the evening, but I don't need them dancing down the aisle. But that's my choice. But some people, if they want to, I think run with it, go with it. And with the flower grannies, flower grandmothers, I think, as you said, it's nice to give people a job. And that's something that when I actually did the wedding planning course, they spoke about roles within a wedding. And we all know about bridesmaids and ushers, groomsmen, best man, maid of honour. But then making a point of, if you're inviting someone to do a reading, make a point of it, make a thing of it. Maybe you want somebody that's not an usher to hand out the order of service or make sure everyone's got confetti. Or some people will have just relished the opportunity to have a job, a responsibility. I know some friends that had two bridesmaids. It was the bride and groom's sister. Each sister was a bridesmaid. And then she had three bridesmaids. And her friends, they were given a flower. They did join in with the procession. And they sang at the wedding. They sang during the ceremony. But she didn't want to have lots of bridesmaids, but she wanted to make sure everyone was involved. And I think you can make sure people are involved, or if you've got somebody that you want to give a job to, but you don't really want to make them part of the bridal party, there are ways of including people. We've asked someone to be a toastmaster and introduce the speeches and things. And I went to a wedding and the stepdad did that because obviously her father gave her away, gave the father of the bride speech, but she was very close to her stepdad too and wanted to make sure that he had a job to do. So we've given it to a very close friend of the family. But it's just there are more ways of making people feel involved if you would like to, without having to make them part of the bridal party. So I think that also then could convolute responsibility, but also comes with an added cost if you're planning on paying for dresses, hair and makeup, etc., etc.
I think that is such a lovely way, though, to make your wedding so individual. I think that's a fantastic idea, and I'm sure people would love to be able to organise the toast. Abby, I just want to finish this conversation by you are such an organised person. I mean, there is no doubt this wedding is going to go so smoothly. Can you just give some information and some tips and ideas for brides that are in the process of trying to pick up the pieces during a pandemic, and generally for brides, just the things you have learned, the do's, the don'ts, don't spend money here or spend a bit more money there, just general advice?
I think, firstly, the most important thing to remember is that it's your and your partner's day. It is nobody else's day. And even, obviously, there can come particularly some stress if people have offered to put towards the wedding or are making a significant contribution, but still the day is about you two. And so ensure that all of your decisions, whatever they may be about, are they making you two happy? Are they a decision that you two have come to make the day about you? Because everybody that comes to your wedding should look around and go, oh yes, so for us, this is Abby and Patrick's wedding. And it's not their day, it's your day, and they are here to celebrate you and celebrate with you. And so if they not if they deserve to be there, that's not the right thing at all, but all of your closest friends and family should look around, and even if something is not their cup of tea, they'll look at it and go, but it's them, and I can see them shining through, because that's what you want. You want the two of you shining through in everything, whatever it is. Just make sure you're at the heart of your day. And then when it comes to that, in terms of money, there are millions of resources, of budgets, how to budget, the percentage of your budget that you should spend on things. But I would suggest, obviously, come to an idea of your budget, decide how much that's going to be, but then prioritize what it is that you want to spend the most money on. So it might be food, and food might be the biggest part, and you might not be bothered about a designer dress. You might be happy with a high street dress. It might be that or it might be that fashion is a major part of your day, or your photos are a major part of your day. But sit down with your partner and decide what for you two are the most important things. It doesn't matter that somebody else's was different. What are the most important things for you? And then assess your budget that way. And I live my life by lists. I think you can, if you're ever worrying, physically writing something down, getting it out of your brain and into something that you can look at. If you're making difficult decisions, it's a list of pros and cons, or if you write a list of the things you need to do, you can then take wedding planning step by step, because when you first start, it can seem a huge mountain and you think, I don't even know where to start. But if you've got your list, I would start with those 3 pillars: where, when, and by who. And then the rest you can tick off slowly but surely. Find suppliers that align with you and your partner to make your day more you. And then my last one is just take a step back and enjoy it. Enjoy the whole process. Hopefully, touch wood, you only plan to do it once. And I found, actually, when you speak to people who've got married more than once, their second wedding is nothing like their first one. So this experience, even if this is your 5th wedding, this experience is totally unique. You will only do this thing once, so enjoy it and make it all about you. Enjoy the things that you want to enjoy and try not to get stressed about it. Be honest and open with people, your friends and family. If you like a decision, if someone's given you decisions, say no. If you don't like it, say no. Thank you for your input, but it's not your decision. Thank you. You can be polite about it. If you don't like a wedding dress, don't feel like you have to be nice to the person because they've made you try it on and the people in the shop have all said, oh, you look amazing, say, thank you, but this is not for me. And they be honest with everything. And then the professionals within the industry, if you are honest, will be able to help you and direct you in the right way. If you go in and say about a wedding dress, I tried one on and there was a bit of detail in a rather unfortunate position, and that is all I could look at in the mirror. And so I said, no, I feel uncomfortable because of this, this and this. Okay. And then he went and he found some dresses that were more suited to me. The same with colours. If you don't like something, say it. If you don't like something in your flowers, say it. They are professionals. They will then be better placed to guide you.
I mean, your advice there in that short little conversation alone, the advice you have given, the common sense in everything you have said is just priceless. Now, you said earlier you've got your diploma in wedding planning. I sincerely hope you are writing a handbook, a manual. I love your 3 pillars. And when you said the number one thing is to remember, it's all about you. It's your day, your partner's day. That's number one thing to remember. Everything else is just fluff and lovely to have and will make memories. At the end of the day, it's about the union between 2 people, whoever you are. That's what really matters. Please, Abby, seriously think about a handbook, a manual, because I'm sure there are so many women who, as you say, oh my God, where do I start? Your 3 pillars makes total sense. And I'm sure a lot of girls would, the first thing is, oh, I need to get the dress, or I need to organise the venue, whatever. Yeah, the 3 pillars, absolutely. That needs to be page number 1, it's all about you. Page number 2, the 3 pillars. I sincerely hope you do seriously think about writing a manual or a handbook. I think you would be onto something, definitely.
Well, you've given me food for thought now. I don't want to say it, I need another lockdown and I'll get myself writing. I do like writing, so.
I certainly think, so many people are self-publishing things these days. And I think because, as you've said, when you talked about the venues, the dress, the guest list, the dance, the hair and the makeup, all these components, I'm sure for many women getting married or men getting married as well, it's a huge task. And I'm sure you can look at it and just think, oh my God, and how much is this going to cost? And you can get, yourself in a bit of a stressful situation straight away. So, Abby, it's been an absolute pleasure. And from your All About You to the podcast All About You, I wish you and Patrick a wonderful, wonderful wedding day and a very long and happy life together.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I've loved chatting to you.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. Abby, thank you very much for being a guest on the All About You podcast. Thank you. I hope you have enjoyed the conversation. Don't forget, if you have a story you would like to tell, please get in touch. My email address is allaboutyoupodcast@yahoo.com, and thank you for listening.